Entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful forces of our time, but too often it's reduced to money, risk, and startups. In reality, entrepreneurship doesn't begin with a business plan. It begins with identity, with the answer to questions like, who am I when I create something new? Who am I when I take responsibility for an idea that doesn't yet exist? Entrepreneurship isn't a profession. It's a way of thinking, a way of being. And to become one, you must go through an inner transformation, what psychologists call the formation of entrepreneurial identity. Identity isn't a mask. It's the deep structure of ourself. It answers the questions, who am I? What truly matters to me? And what is my place in the world? Each of us has many identities: a son or daughter, a student, a professional, a friend, a creator. And there's a constant dialogue between them. Entrepreneurial identity isn't just, I run a business. It's, I am someone who creates new value. It's the self-perception of a creator, a person who looks at the world and sees not only what is, but what could be. Modern research on entrepreneurship, from Huang and Gamino, 2010, Fauchart and Gruber, 2011, and Abshanka et al., 2013, shows that entrepreneurial identity operates on 3 levels: cognitive, emotional, and social. On the cognitive level, it's a way of thinking that focuses on possibilities. You see patterns and connections that others overlook. On the emotional level, it's the inner energy of creation, what psychologists call entrepreneurial passion, the drive to bring something new into existence. And on the social level, it's about recognition, when others begin to see you not as someone who waits, but as someone who acts. So identity isn't just self-belief. It's a continuous exchange between who you feel you are and how the world sees you. From a neuroscience perspective, entrepreneurship begins in the brain, in the delicate balance between fear and imagination. People with a strong entrepreneurial identity don't ignore risk. They simply see opportunity standing right beside it. Their nervous system learns to live with uncertainty. They turn anxiety into action. It's not something you're born with. It's learned courage. Every step you take, every experiment you try, strengthens the neural pathways that make the role of entrepreneur feel more natural. Through this process, neuroplasticity literally shapes identity through experience.
Identity never forms in isolation. A person becomes an entrepreneur among other entrepreneurs, in a community where creativity is normal and failure is simply part of the process. That's why environment is a decisive factor. Mentors, colleagues, friends, even social media act as mirrors that reflect and confirm your new role. Sociologists call this identity feedback, when the world mirrors you back as the person you aspire to be. That's why the shift from I'm trying to I'm creating often happens not in solitude, but through interaction. So how does this identity actually form? Researchers highlight 4 key factors. 1. Personal traits: independence, creativity, and self-belief. Those who value freedom and influence are more likely to see themselves as entrepreneurs. 2. Social environment. Identity doesn't form alone. Mentors, family, and friends serve as mirrors through which we discover who we can become. When you're surrounded by people who create, take risks, and act, the role of entrepreneur begins to feel normal. 3. Experience and education. Entrepreneurial education isn't just about business plans. It's about having a space to try, fail, and realize, yes, this is who I am. 4. Cultural context. Across societies, entrepreneurship carries different meanings. In some, it's heroism; in others, risk or even rebellion. These perceptions deeply shape whether we want to become entrepreneurs. But globalization is changing this context. Today,
Entrepreneurship is not a status, it's a language of self-expression, and that language is becoming universal. Psychologically, this process unfolds in 3 stages. 1. Potential identity. You're not acting yet, but you're imagining that you could. It's that inner resonance with the image of a creator. You start to think, maybe I could be that person. 2. Transitional. You begin to act. Every step you take either confirms or challenges that image. You're collecting evidence of who you might become. 3. Established. You're no longer playing the role. You are the role. Action and self-awareness merge into one. But this cycle never really ends. It repeats with every new level of growth. Because a true entrepreneur is not a fixed identity. It's a constantly evolving self.
Everyone who creates something faces a moment of crisis. When an idea fails, you don't just lose time or money. You lose a piece of yourself. This is what psychologists call identity collapse. Research from the University of Bath, or UK, found that after failure, many entrepreneurs experience a deep sense of self-loss. They don't just lose a business, they lose who they thought they were. That's why it's crucial to separate failure of action from failure of self. You are not your result. But this moment of collapse can also bring transformation. When you stop tying your identity only to success and start seeing yourself as a learner in progress, crisis becomes renewal. Every failure becomes a question. Who am I now after this experience? That's the highest form of entrepreneurial maturity, when your identity doesn't break with change, but grows through it. Not all entrepreneurs are the same. Researchers and psychologists identify several archetypes of entrepreneurial identity. The inventor lives in a world of ideas. Their identity is rooted in creativity. They feel most alive when bringing something new into existence, but they're not always interested in management or structure. The founder. Their main energy is in building teams, systems, processes. They don't just create a product, they create an environment for others to thrive in. The architect of change sees systems bigger than themselves: society, ecology, culture. Their identity lies in impact. They love to improve, scale, and organize for a larger purpose. Sometimes these identities can conflict. The creative mind might get drained by the routines of management. The manager might get bored without innovation. That's why it's important to know your archetype, so you don't compare your path to someone else's. Each identity follows its own trajectory of growth. Building an entrepreneurial identity is a journey. It doesn't require a startup, investors, or an office. It begins with a few simple but powerful steps. 1. Act without guarantees. Every time you try something new, your sense of self updates. Action reshapes identity. 2. Reflect. Write down what worked, what didn't, and how it changed the way you see yourself. Without reflection, experience doesn't turn into identity. 3. Find your community. Surround yourself with people who also create, explore, and take risks. Identity is formed in dialogue. 4. Keep learning. Knowledge is how you evolve, not stagnate. 5. Redefine success. Don't measure it only in money or recognition. Measure it by how closely your actions align with your values. Because, in the end, entrepreneurship isn't just about building things, it's about building yourself. Before we finish, let's break down a few common myths. Myth 1. Entrepreneurs are only business owners. Not true. Entrepreneurial thinking can show up in art, education, science, or social change. It's not about owning a company, it's about creating something new. Myth 2. Entrepreneurs are born that way. False. Identity is formed, not fixed. Entrepreneurship can be learned, practiced, and cultivated. Myth 3. Entrepreneurs only care about money. Research shows that most seek meaning, freedom, and impact.
So if you create, solve problems, and take action, that identity already lives within you. Entrepreneurship isn't just about building companies. It's the art of building yourself. Everyone who takes responsibility for creating change is already an entrepreneur, because the ultimate product of entrepreneurship isn't a business. It's a new human being, one who sees the world differently. So maybe the real question isn't, are you an entrepreneur, but rather, which part of yourself are you ready to create anew? If you found this lesson helpful, support our channel by giving it a like, subscribing, and be sure to leave a comment sharing how valuable it was for you. In the next lesson, we'll explore the role of risk, courage, and responsibility in entrepreneurship. See you in the next video.